Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the profound and honestly fascinating paradox of Honduras. It's a country completely defined by breathtaking natural wealth. We're talking fertile soils, gorgeous jade-green waters, and towering peaks. But at the exact same time, it's gripped by steep historical challenges that actively continue to shape its reality today. So I want to kick things off by asking you a really fundamental question. It sits right at the heart of our whole exploration. How did a land so rich in resources, a place that literally housed some of the most advanced ancient civilizations on Earth, become synonymous with modern turmoil and mass migration? It's a striking contradiction, right? Well, the answer doesn't actually lie in recent headlines. To figure this out, we have to look deep into the past. To really wrap your head around the stakes of what we're talking about, just consider this staggering number. 47.3%. That is the nationwide poverty rate in Honduras today, and extreme poverty hits those rural communities the absolute hardest. This figure sharply contrasts with the country's incredible natural and cultural richness. So you have to ask yourself, why is there such a massive disconnect between the wealth of the land and the wealth of its people? Okay, here's our roadmap to finding those answers. We'll be looking at 1. Deep waters, rich lands. 2. The Spanish conquest. 3. Independence and instability. 4. Intervention and extraction. 5. Modern turmoil and migration. And finally, 6. Enduring cultural resilience. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, Deep Waters, Rich Lands, covering the pre-Columbian era. Did you know the very name of the country comes from the indigenous Chami word for depth? It's a direct nod to the life-giving rivers and sweeping, fertile lands that housed advanced pre-Columbian peoples way before 1502. The territory was home to the Maya, the Lenca, the Pech, and the Chorts, among others. These were societies that truly thrived in these deep waters and highland forests. And looking back, it brilliantly illustrates a clash of perspectives that totally defined the early history of Honduras. On one side, you have the pre-Columbian Mayan reality. They had built complex observatories, grand stone temples in the Copan Valley, and absolutely mastered astronomical science. But the arriving Spanish invaders, they didn't see it that way at all. To them, it was just a desolate, hostile jungle. Basically an obstacle to be stripped of gold, silver, and later things like indigo and timber. But not every European was completely blind to this greatness. Even the Spanish historian and priest Bartolomé de las Casas was absolutely awestruck by the sheer agricultural and scientific brilliance of the Mayan civilization. As he wrote, "Where has arisen the art of numbers, calculation cycles, and astrological science?" He recognized the profound wisdom and architectural mastery that had been there for centuries before the conquistadors ever even set foot on the continent.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Spanish conquest and the arrival of Europeans.
The conquest itself was incredibly swift and devastating. It all started with Christopher Columbus claiming the land in 1502, then skipped to 1524, and Hernán Cortés and Gil González Dávila began a brutal 14-year campaign against the indigenous populations. The main driving force? Gold. By the 1540s, the Spanish forced an entire economic shift toward relentless, highly lucrative mineral extraction. Essentially, they set a precedent right then and there that the land was just something to be emptied out for foreign profit. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this era cemented a rigid, extractive social hierarchy. Think of it like a pyramid. The Spanish installed themselves at the very top, a mixed-blood mestizo group sat in the middle, and the indigenous and newly imported black populations were forced into brutal, hard labor at the very bottom. This system intentionally marginalized the native people while aggressively exporting the region's immense wealth back to Europe. It literally laid the foundational bedrock for the deep inequalities we still see today. Next up is Section 3, Independence and Instability, a period that brought centuries of chaos. Now, you might think gaining independence in 1821 would bring peace, right? Well, actually, the centuries that followed were defined by a really chaotic loop. You'd have these brief periods of civil rule or reform, like the attempts to nationalize the economy in the 1950s, but they were so quickly disrupted by military coups. We see this play out in 1963 with the ousting of the democratically elected Villa de Morales, and the loop continues all the way up to the modern era with the 2009 coup against Manuel Zelaya. The institutional breakdown was just relentless. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, Intervention and Extraction, focusing on external dominance. Let's look at how external forces swooped in and capitalized on that weakened state. Honduras actually became the original banana republic. completely dominated by the United Fruit Company, which acquired vast tracts of land and essentially dictated local infrastructure. At the same time, indigenous groups like the Pech were dispossessed of their ancestral lands for foreign logging. And then during the Cold War, the U.S. utilized Honduras as a base of operations against Soviet influence in Central America, openly backing military regimes. Tragically, this whole era was marked by widespread human rights violations, death squads, and a severe suppression of any dissent. The chilling reality of this era's severe political repression is captured in this stark, terrifying quote from a despot of the time. "The only right of the dead is to remain silent." I mean, it perfectly reflects a period where fundamental democratic rights were systematically ignored and human lives were just treated as collateral damage in the name of foreign interests and military control. Let's fast forward a bit to Section 5, Modern Turmoil and Migration, looking at how these crises began compounding. Now, what's really important to grasp here is the snowball effect of these events. When you combine a fragile, highly polarized political infrastructure like the aftermath of the 2009 coup with devastating, repeated natural disasters, the results are just catastrophic. Take Hurricane Mitch back in 1998, 5,600 lives lost and a massive drop in GDP and infrastructure. Then hit fast forward to 2020 with the back-to-back strikes of Hurricanes Eta and Delta causing billions in damage. The local economy simply cannot sustain its people under the crushing weight of this combined trauma. And this brings us right back to that question we asked at the very beginning of the explainer. It's this perfect storm: extreme violence, deep poverty, and climate-driven crop failures of basic staples like maize and beans. This directly causes the massive migrant caravans that dominate our modern news headlines. Hand-to-mouth farming families and young people are literally running out of options. They are forced to migrate north just in search of basic survival and some semblance of stability. But, it's not all bleak. Let's look at our final part, Section 6, Enduring Cultural Resilience and Heritage. Despite everything, today Honduras retains a vibrant, deeply diverse cultural tapestry. While the majority of the population is mestizo, at about 77.9%, indigenous and Afro-descendant groups like the Garifuna, the Lenca, the Miskito, Pech, Chortis, and Nahuas have fiercely protected their unique identities, languages, and traditions against some incredible odds over the centuries. These communities don't just survive, they continue to truly thrive through rich cultural expressions. You can see it firsthand in the indigenous agricultural rituals that are still practiced in the Copan Valley, or the deep-rooted mestizo festivals. You can hear it in the vibrant Afro-indigenous music and dances of the Garifuna right on the Caribbean coast. It's a living, breathing testament to the enduring spirit of the Honduran people. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How can a nation defined by over 500 years of foreign extraction finally forge an independent path to stability and prosperity? What you should really take away from this explainer is that you simply cannot solve the modern crisis of Honduras without understanding its past. Acknowledging this complex, heavily layered history is the only true way to grasp how this beautiful country might break the cycle and build a more stable, equitable future. Thanks so much for learning with me today.